Hello again. It sometimes happens that I see an item in the news, the implications of which seem to escape almost everybody. So it was yesterday when I came across news which told me something in the plainest possible way, although nobody else appeared to understand what was being said. To make sense of this, we need to know that there is a general principle at work in Britain today that black people should not be found anywhere in any organisation, establishment or profession in anything other than the same percentage which they make up in the general population. Roughly 5% of the population in this country is black. If we find that, say, less than 1% of doctors are black, then this is something seen as a problem to be rectified. We must see if we can increase that 1% to 5%. The same applies to the RAF, the fire brigade, top jobs in industry, architects, actors in films, and so on. This is known as reflecting the community, an expression which many viewers will have heard. The same thing applies if the proportion of black people in some setting rises too much above 5% as well. People of black Caribbean heritage in the United Kingdom are 9 times as likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia as white people. Those of black African origin are 6 times as likely to receive such a diagnosis. Britain's Mental Health Act makes provision for people to be detained compulsorily in psychiatric hospitals if they are a danger to themselves or others. This is a procedure commonly known as being sectioned, because it alludes to the relevant section of the Act under which the action is taken. It's long been noticed that black people are more likely to be sectioned than white people. They are 4 times as likely to be sectioned and 10 times more likely to be the subject of a community treatment order, whereby they live outside a hospital but are still subject to compulsory treatment. As a result, there are efforts to reduce the number of black people being sectioned so that they make up no more than 5% of the total. It's the same with people in prison. Black people currently make up 12.5% of the prison population in Britain, and the aim is to reduce it until it's no more than 5%. Of course, you cannot simply tell judges to stop sending black people to prison because it looks lousy for the statistics. Somebody would be sure to hear about it. Ideally, the government would find a way to discourage black people from breaking the law so often, but there is an easier option, and it entails the same method used to increase the number of black people at medical schools and top universities. Let me pause at this point and remark that so far I have said nothing in the least controversial. I have simply described what is happening in Britain without expressing any opinion about the merits or otherwise of what is going on. The way devised to reduce the number of black people in prison is precisely the same as the method used to increase the number of entrants to medical school who are black, which on the face of it sounds contradictory. It is not. If you wish to get more black students at this or that university, you use what are known as contextual offers. In March 2021, the Office for Students, the government watchdog whose role is to protect the interests of university students in Britain, issued a statement in which regret was expressed for the attainment gap in the outcome for those graduating from the nation's universities. The data showed that in the year 2019 to 2020, black students were less likely than white students to get a first or upper second class degree at 96 of the 97 universities and colleges considered in the analysis. At some, the gap in attainment was more than 20 percentage points. Chris Millwood, who was the Director of Fair Access and Participation at the Office for Students, said, "While there is evidence that the gap in attainment for black students compared to their white peers is closing, it remains far too high. At 96 of the 97 higher education providers for which the dashboards report ethnicity attainment gaps, black students' attainment is lower than we see for white students." Here then was a case where the percentages of black people were wrong and had to be altered. The method for doing this when it comes to universities is what are known sometimes as contextual offers. That is to say, allowing people from poverty-stricken areas or poorly performing schools into their institutions with lower grades than anybody else and treating them more favourably once they're there, making life academically easier for them at the universities. This benefits black students who tend to live in such areas, the poorer areas, and attend the schools so designated. To do this, one begins by lowering the qualifications needed to get onto courses. By analysing the postcodes of those applying, using either a system called Acorn or another known as Polar, it's possible to spot those who live in poor districts and even identify individual streets in which few older adults have been to university. The schools which applicants have attended are also scrutinised, and if few pupils do well at A-levels or go to places such as Oxford or Cambridge universities, this is another positive mark. Children who have been in care are also singled out for special attention. Because black people tend to be poorer and less well educated than the average family, and the parents less likely to have attended university, studying postcodes and schools in this way will provide one not only with poor working class pupils, but often those who are black as well. A disproportionate number of black people will be thrown up by the contextual offers system. Again, I make no comment on whether this should be done. I am simply explaining how the system works. The Sentencing Council, which advises judges on guidelines when considering the sentence to impose upon a convicted criminal, now says that these same factors, that is to say, coming from a poor area, having attended a school which doesn't send many pupils on to universities in the Russell Group and so on, as well as having been in care and coming from a family with a low income and poor educational background, should all be treated as mitigating factors when considering whether to send somebody to prison or not. This will, just as in the case of contextual offers, automatically identify not only working class people from poorer backgrounds, but also a disproportionate number of black people. By using criteria which bring in many black people like this, it will certainly mean that a larger number of black people will be eligible for softer sentences and a better chance of avoiding being sent to prison. The idea is that this will very soon lead to a reduction of the present 12.5% of people in prison who are black and bring the number down to 5%, so that those in prison reflect the population. I neither approve nor disapprove of this idea. I'm simply telling people what's going on. I confess myself surprised, though, that so few people appear to have understood the purpose behind these new guidelines. In the description to this video, I give a link to a news item about this, but I'm sure that a quick search will bring up other news about it so that viewers can check for themselves what I've been saying.